Everyone, this is Kendra Dockham. She is one of our audit principals, and she has been with the firm now for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. She's a licensed CPA. She's a graduate at Cal State San Bernardino. She specializes in nonprofit audits, and she's attended the Cal CPA Leadership Institute. She was awarded the Emerging Executive of the Year in 2018. She was the Accounting Advisory Board past president for CSUSB. And so she's pretty awesome. And here's her contact information, and you can bother her on LinkedIn if you want. But I'll let her go ahead and get into her presentation. Kendra, do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to click through for you?
Well, yeah, I was wondering how we were going to do that. It's probably easier for you to click through. I just wanted to point out for everybody the headshot there was when I first became a partner. And so just like poor Barack and other people who go gray in their first term, I am there. So we're going to have to update that soon.
Poor Kendra, we've really done a number on her. Suck the life out of you. I'm just kidding. You look great.
Before we get started, I was listening to you guys talk in the earlier session. I was just going to go ahead and open mics because the best part of everything is the Q&A. Just kind of give you guys a chance to ask, any questions you might have, introduce yourself. I think I can see everybody. It doesn't let you see everybody all at once. One of the questions I have is, how is everybody dealing with remote learning? Where's everybody at with that?
Well, if I'll start, I am thriving during remote learning, and I think I am like the 15% who can actually cope with it very well, I think. I am constantly on my computer, and ever since I got 2 monitors, I'm able to, deal with all this stuff. It's fantastic.
Great. Anybody else? I've heard mixed reviews. Some people just are going nuts. They can't stand it anymore.
I can honestly say I'm pretty burnt. I feel burnt out. I took a lot of online classes before the pandemic, so I was already kind of done with it. So just taking senior level classes, I just don't enjoy it, but it's just something, you just got to bite the bullet and ride it through.
Right.
Let's see, Roberto, I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, so when it comes to courses that actually have a Zoom session, I find those to be not too bad, I guess. But it's when courses are asynchronous that I kind of tend to forget about it sometimes, and then it'll just catch up to me 2-3 weeks behind or something, and then it's oh, course is almost finished, and then that's
your worst nightmare.
Yeah. So
how many assignments do I need to do?
Yeah,
exactly.
I still have those dreams. Where I all of a sudden realize I'm enrolled in a class, and it's time to take a test, and I haven't been to one class. You're like, oh, yeah, I still have those panic moments in my dreams.
But overall, I say it's not too bad.
Anybody else?
I would say in the beginning, it was an adjustment for sure, but I've kind of acclimated to it and I've adjusted.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what are we all going to have to do when we no longer have to dress for the Zoom shot, It's whoo, I might have to wear slacks or a skirt sometime soon. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts with me on that. My youngest son is a student at Cal State San Bernardino. I believe this is his junior year. I'm not a bad mom. I'm just not a helicopter mom. And so I know he has struggled with that, but I know going into it, even when we were going into, hey, we're going to finally be able to do remote audits, we thought this is fantastic this is fantastic. I'm going to work from home finally. I'm going to do all of this remotely. This is going to be fantastic. And about 3 months in, you went, okay, there's some benefits here, but there's definitely some drawbacks. So this is our Leadership Academy. It was intended to be an in-person event, but we get to do this virtually. And so I'm hoping everybody's getting lots of good information out of it. All right, Hannah. All right. So because I haven't been out of school that long, I would get an agenda, first day of class, and as soon as I saw a group project, I would cringe. And so how many of you can identify with this picture here? Probably everybody. Group projects are just the worst thing possible. And looking at it, I go, yeah, I've been the cat there. I've probably been the group leader that didn't do a lot. Honestly say the guy who spams motivating stuff, that was not me. I was not that person. But we all end up doing these group projects. They're very, very painful. They come with all of these challenges. And sometimes we wonder ourselves, why do we have to do a group project? Why can't I just do all of this myself? It would be so much easier if I did this myself and I didn't have to rely on my group team members to do this. And the reality is, once we get to our career and we put school behind us, what we find out is that work really is one continuous group project after the other, especially in audit. We did last year, I think 70 audits and reviews, upwards of probably over 70. And so each one of those is like a group project. The team members stay the same for the most part, except now we add in the variable, which is our client. Next slide. So why do we work in groups? It's painful, we don't like them, but the reality is very few careers or endeavors in life are successful without the help of others. The reality is individual performers only have so much capacity. What you'll find out when you start working in a firm, initially, you will be recognized for your own individual abilities, and you will operate as an individual performer within a team. But what we find out as we move along in our career is that I only have 24 hours. That's all I have. And so my ability, my capacity to take on additional work is limited by my own personal, there's just one of me and 24 hours. And so that's where the leadership comes in. That's where I have to be able to work within a group. I have to be able to pull other people into this and motivate them to get it done in order for me to increase the amount of work that I can do. Within groups, we gain greater knowledge and experience. When we bring in people from different areas and with different skill sets and different periods of time of experience, we gain knowledge from that. And ultimately, synergy is created when we work in great teams. There's also lots of lessons to be learned from really bad teams. I have to say that. But being in great teams motivates us and challenges us to do our very best. So I boiled down here the things in thinking about this of what makes a project or an engagement or anything that we endeavor to do as a group, what makes that successful. And so the components to a successful project is if we know the scope of the project, it helps if we could choose it, which we do get to do once we get into our careers. Unfortunately, in the classroom environment, The teacher kind of chooses the scope for you. But if we have a good understanding of the scope of what we're supposed to do, we have either the expertise or people on our team who have the expertise to perform the project. We have sufficient number of people to carry out the project. We've done the proper planning of how to complete the project. We've established how we will communicate between team members. And finally, we have executed. No project is going to be complete. We could do all of the first, how many steps? 5 here. If we don't actually have the will and the means by which to execute the project, it's never going to happen. So for us here at the firm, scope. Scope of the project means I have to determine before we even start work, is this engagement, does the client have the proper integrity? Obviously, I don't want to be doing work with a client that doesn't have integrity. They don't have their books in order, or they're just not following best practices. I have to determine whether or not this project is within the industry that I have expertise. I have to look and determine, do I have the capacity? Obviously, given the 70 plus clients that I work with, if I have somebody come to me with an engagement and it's going to require, 3 months of 4 people working full time, that's going to be problematic. I shouldn't take on a project I don't have the capacity to do. And ultimately, we fight this every day. We want to make sure the pricing is correct for the job that we're doing. I work for free a lot of days, but I don't want to do it like 365 days of the year. We also want to make sure we have expertise to do it. Here at the firm, this is really a drive of ours. It's a value that we have. We create expertise by specializing in specific industries. We don't try to be everything to everybody. We work in the nonprofit arena. We work in the housing authority arena. But I don't do school districts. So I'm not going to take on a project I don't have the expertise for. We've gained that knowledge through experience, through getting a thorough knowledge of the niche we work in. We do a lot of continuous learning. I know all of us think as soon as we get done with school, I never want to be in another class again. But the reality is all of our associates and our licensed people, we spend 40 hours every year getting additional learning. And then we make sure within the firm that we've cultivated multiple experts. So while my expertise is in the nonprofit arena, and I have a fairly decent knowledge of the tax reporting for the nonprofits, I don't try to be an expert in preparing a 990. Instead, what I do is I have people like Carlos and Karen who have cultivated the expertise in that, and I gladly send my clients to talk to them about their tax reporting. Next, people. So we worked a lot on this here in our firm. Generally, you want to make sure that when you're putting together a team that's going to perform a project, that you have some shared core values. That doesn't mean that we're all the same people, but I think when you endeavor in a project, you have to have some core values. And in school, it might just be that we all really want to do a good job. Establish those core values and make sure that everybody shares those core values for the project. Secondly, we try to make sure we have everybody in the right seat. That means when we have a lead on the job, they should be equipped to do that. That should suit their personal makeup, the skills that they have, because people perform better when we have them performing the right tasks. Planning planning is huge. If you don't plan, you don't know where you're going, you're not going to make it there on time. So part of our planning process is to always know, what are the deliverables? Deliverables are, what's the output? And not just one of the deliverables, but all the deliverables. I have a report to management. I have communications with governance. We have a 990. I may have a single audit. I may have to submit the single audit to the federal government. So I need to have a full knowledge of what all is expected at the end of this project. I need to know my deadlines so I can schedule. I need to know what kind of data is available to me, and when will it be available to me? And lastly, I always have to assess my risk. What are my risks that we're going to encounter obstacles? I've never known a project where you don't encounter some sort of obstacle. So we have to plan for those risks and the eventuality that they're going to happen. Another major component is communication. So a lot of us in accounting, we do accounting because we like numbers. We enjoy staring at a computer. We're not necessarily people, but the reality is that accounting is a very people-orientated business, and communication, you find, becomes a cornerstone of what you do, especially as you move up in your career. So whenever we're starting an engagement and trying to complete it, the communication has to be ongoing and continuous. And some days seems like too much, but we have to communicate with board members. We have to communicate with the management team for the client that we're working with. Within our team, the person who's been placed in charge of the job, there has to be frequent communication with them and with myself, and then of course with the team members. A big part of communication, a lot of us like to communicate through the method that we're most comfortable with. So if you're somebody who enjoys texting, you may choose to communicate through text. But what we find in our career is our job is to figure out what is the medium of communication that works best for the person we're trying to reach. So I have some clients, I know they prefer a text, and so I will text them. I have other clients, I could email them until the end of time and not get a response. And so for those, I know the phone works best for them, which means I have to pick up the phone. I have to pick up the phone, I have to make a phone call. I have to allot that time to be able to communicate with them verbally.
Sorry, I went ahead too soon, I think.
No, I'm done
Okay.
with that slide. And finally, execution. We focus, if we focus in on all the planning and the ideas and putting everything in place, execution is really what has to happen. It's why meeting your commitments is one of our core values. If we don't actually finish the job, that's what I tell people, I said, at some point the audit has to end. We have to produce a report. We have to be able to move on from this in a timely manner. Otherwise, we've not fulfilled our commitment. And that's it. Those are the core components to success in a project. I lost my view of everybody's face.
You should be able to drag it, or it might have just gotten like lost in all yours. Yeah, I lose mine sometimes too. I have to click around a little.
I'm like, I can't see their faces. It's terrible.
I'm sure when we pull out a screen share, it'll go back to.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you very much. I don't know how teachers do it, honestly. And I have a lot of clients who are teachers and Teachers Association. And I tell them, I was like, my hat's off. I don't know how you guys are doing this all virtually. So I went through a lot of that really, really fast, which I'm really, really good at. So maybe you can share some of your experiences in group projects, some of the obstacles you've encountered, or some of the successes you've had. Or you can ask me what, you know. Sometimes it's easy to come up with a question. Go ahead.
So for a long time, early college, high school, I hated group projects because I liked doing projects. I disliked hanger-ons. I disliked social loafing. I disliked, you know, the lack of interest for a lot of people. And
Yes.
I found that more recently, as I've been taking higher education classes, and more recently as I've been, working with people in a semi-professional professional sense, there has been some increase in interest, which has really driven my appreciation and liking for group participatory projects, because I believe the combined intellect of many different outlooks creates some remarkably new solutions we would never have come up with. It's fantastic, but it's definitely a learning curve when you start in high school and nobody wants to do anything.
Yeah. And you're forced to join a group of people that, aren't of your own choosing. You may or may not be excited about the project. So the thing is with it, once you get into your career and you're working in a professional sense, definitely the caliber of your team members hopefully are much better. You, at least as they used to say, you don't have a marketing weenie in your group who just wants to have a good time. You actually have serious people who are committed to completing the project. However, what you will find, and what I have found, is that one team member I have in every project we do, every engagement, the variable I always have is the client. And so we can go back to that picture of the dog, and my client could be any one of those people, any one of them, any mixture of those people. They're really happy and cheerful. They're so thankful for everything you do, but you cannot get them to participate in this process. Or I have some clients and I'm working with their accounting staff, and that accounting staff is not motivated to get to my requests or help me out in any way at all. And the confused guy, I hate to say it, folks, but a lot of companies out there, their accounting staff is the confused guy. They're just like, what do you need? So, and then the subject experts, you always have them and they really don't do anything, but they're the expert. So what you find is hopefully some of the group members you've had that you've had to work with who weren't motivated, who weren't the best team member, hopefully you learn some tactics on how to motivate them, because having that group member as part of your team, unfortunately, typically it's the client, is still something that you deal with on a daily basis. Any other?
I kind of wanted to add to the because sometimes I also noticed when I had group projects, sometimes there'd be like certain situations that like people would be in that would like cause them to like focus on other things. They had to prioritize other things. So I would always like to like talk to them to like see what's going on in their life and then like figure out something to work on for the project. So.
And that is a big part of it. And this particular audit season, we've had a lot of that, where I'm trying to get a hold of the client. I'm thinking maybe they're just, ignoring me or not getting me the information I need. And then later on, I find out that due to COVID, they're having some sort of emergency, whether it be in their office, with their home life, that's delaying things. And so we have had to have a lot of, understanding, give and take, rescheduling that's been going on this year. But it is always helpful. I found, especially lately, when I'm doing a lot of emailing back, I'll finally go, let's have a conference call. Let's have a Zoom call. So I can actually start talking to them and find out what the situation is. And usually then I get a better understanding of what's going on, and it just helps the project move along. So you are correct. Are they still doing group projects with all of you being virtual? Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, the group
It's-
projects never stop.
and they didn't change them.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Like I had, it wasn't directed by the group project, but in one of my communications classes, I had to observe people, and I thought to myself, I'm in a pandemic. Where am I going to observe people?
And I might get arrested if I pull out my telescope and start staring out my window. Yeah. Okay. That's a good one.
If I may ask another question, so with audit groups, how many people are generally working in a group?
So generally we work in teams of 3 to 4. Now that being said, not all 4 of us will be on just one job. So usually we have 2 of us working on one job, 2 of us working on another job, kind of bouncing back and forth. And, you know, that's the other difficulty. Our projects are kind of going on simultaneously, all at the same time. I tried to figure out, I was like, what kind of overlap do we have? You figure when you have 70 different projects going on during a year, and each of them take about 30 days to cycle all the way through it, we were working on average 6 projects any given month. So, but we also help each other out. If we're, you know, 2 of us predominantly did the testing on one job and we need wrap up and another team member is available, they just hop on that one. So, but it's a core group of about 4. We work in teams of 4. I think Tennessee, what are they up to over there?
Right now, let's see, they have 4 team members right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely more of a team effort on the audits than it is on the tax returns. When you're working in tax, eventually, well, hopefully you don't, but eventually you could have tax returns where you're, you know, start to finish. And usually the client only has one contact when it comes to tax. Whereas in the audit, they've got multiple contacts. So we have Crystal, who's our audit coordinator. So they know she's the steady team member that's always available to them. There's myself, and then there's usually one other team member who's considered the in charge. Their job is just really to monitor the progress, simply because with this many clients, I can't keep them all like where we're at with all of them straight in my mind. So one team member is like, you're the in charge. It's your job to report back to me where we're at on this. And then the other team members. And in some firms, I know within your first year, you won't have a lot of contact with the clients. However, here, I pull people in pretty quickly. Our teams are small, which means, you know, I'm going to send you, once I'm sure you understand what you need, I'm going to send you to talk to that client if we're in the field, or I'm going to ask you to email them. I'm going to have you CC me the first year so that I can give you advice on what the best way is to phrase your request. But pretty quickly, everybody's out in front of the client. And we sell that to our clients that, you know, it isn't just one person. You won't have to wait to get an answer. And even if the person who responds to you doesn't have the answer, they're going to find it for you, because none of us has all the answers. I try to have most of them. But even I will go, I don't know that answer, but I'm going to get it for you. So did that answer your question? Probably, and then some.
Absolutely. I'm highly interested. Audit seems like it's definitely more in my wheelhouse than tax.
It's hard to, yeah, and it's hard to know. I took one audit class out at Cal State San Bernardino, and it was just as they were starting the MSA program. And so I opted not to do that, having been completed about 8 years worth of college. I was done. So I had the Bachelor's of Science, and I took one audit class, and I got done with that. I thought, that stuff's horrible. I don't know what that is, but it's horrible. But it turned out I ended up working in audit and thoroughly enjoy it. So, any other questions?
I had a question. Would you say, since you took the audit course, would you say it's very different than your work in like now?
So the audit class I took, it was all about the standards, independence, all the things that as an auditor, I need to know. I need to know those things. But in your first couple of years, it's not something you're going to be worried about. So myself as a partner or the in charge, they're the ones that are trying to make sure that the work we're doing is meeting standards. And I'm the one who will be looking at to go, are we meeting the independent standards? So the audit class I took, it had a lot of, I don't know, high level information, but it doesn't teach you the core of the mechanics of what you're going to do. So it doesn't translate in that sense, but the mechanics of what you end up doing have a lot to do with your accounting classes. So, but as Carlos would say, we do accounting backwards. So instead of putting the information in correctly, we're looking at the ending balance and figuring out, was the information put in correctly? And if it wasn't put in correctly, where did it go wrong? So it's highly, you have to use a lot of your analytical skills. You have to know a lot about regulations. You have to know a lot about laws. It's hard to know if somebody's broken a regulation or a law if you don't know what they are. So there's a lot of other things outside of the actual audit class that come into play when you're performing an audit. They don't teach you tick marks or how to fill out a work paper or any of those things. I don't know if they do that anymore, but I remember thinking I was highly unprepared for this job. But I think I heard Carlos saying that it's your first year, you don't know what the heck you're doing. Well, I came into this profession having worked as a manager. I'd worked for a long time. I had lots of work experience. I'd worked as a bookkeeper. I'd gone to school for 4 years to learn accounting. I thought, I am ready. And I spent my first year here at Smith Marion going, I don't know anything. I just don't know anything. So I tell everybody that so they don't feel bad, because your first year, yeah, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. So.
I have another question, if I may, and I apologize for taking up so much time.
Okay.
So in tax, one nice primer to it while you're still in school is VITA.
Yes.
Is there an equivalent or something that not introduces but like supplements and really says, hey, this is something that really is audit focused and etc.
Right. So I did VITA, and then I helped out with the VITA program for like 4 or 5 years after I graduated. Love the VITA experience. I think it's absolutely wonderful if you get a chance to do it. It definitely, if nothing else, even if you don't go into tax, gives you that experience of having the face-to-face with the client, having to take their documents in whatever order they came in and make sense of it. That directly relates to what I do in audit most days. Being able to ask good questions, that directly relates to what I do each day in audit as well. I have to be able to ask the right question to get the right reply from the client. Having your work critiqued. So audit's a terrible, terrible thing. Everybody critiques your work. And even as a partner now, there are second partner reviews. So I get open items from other partners. Then we have our peer review process. Then I got a whole bunch of peer review notes that I've got to answer. So there are a lot of ways that VITA will help. Is there a similar experience? No. On top of VITA, I would say the next best thing to help you get the experience that'll help you as an auditor is do somebody's QuickBooks. Actually do some bookkeeping, whether it's your own personal, a nonprofit group, somebody that you can volunteer for, be the treasurer of something. Familiarity with accounting systems and how you put information into that system, and then how do you identify a misstatement and how do you correct a misstatement? You're going to spend a lot of time as an auditor doing that. But yeah, there's no mock audits, you know, like they have mock trials. We could try it. I just don't think anybody has time. So. Did we still have time?
We still have time. It's okay. I have a question. So, Kendra, can you talk a little bit, since it's Leadership Academy, can you talk a tiny bit about what it means to be a leader when you're a new associate who's not, you know, in charge of anything?
Right. So leadership's not a position. Leadership is something you do. So leadership is the process of influencing others. So I just tell everybody, you can be a leader no matter what level you're at. At some point, you're always influencing others. The other thing is that even in school, you're exhibiting leadership. And leadership lines up with what I call your personal branding. So while you're in school, and then when you start your career at a firm, you're representing your school and you're representing that firm, but at the same time, you're branding yourself. You're determining what people are going to know you by. And personal branding is very important. It's important in school because you're going to find out that a lot of the people you have classes with, you're going to see in a professional capacity, because accounting is a very, very, very small world. We think it's a big world, but it's actually a really small world. And we end up running into others that we've had in classes. And so whatever they branded themselves as when they were in school, we're going to remember that. So I always tell everybody, leadership is how you influence others, and ultimately it's your own personal branding. Eventually you're going to brand yourself with clients, and clients are going to be the basis of your career. So always know, even when some people are like, this client drives me nuts, I don't like them. It's like, okay, but you're branding yourself. As a leader, you're influencing them. You're determining, how does everybody know you? What values and characteristics are you going to be known for? And that's really how somebody in their first year in school and in their 10th year has a leadership role.
Thank you, Kendra. Also, just kind of talking, you talked a little bit about, you know, volunteering for a nonprofit, being a treasurer, you know, things like that, that the students can do. What other opportunities are there for them to, you know, network and, you know, get involved in different associations? What would your recommendation be for them to build those relationships?
So networking, oh my goodness, that's such a, first of all, what a painful thing to have to do, networking, right? Walk into a room full of professionals or people you don't know and try and strike up a conversation. Even harder to do now that we can't even do that painful experience in person. I've always gotten to know people best when I'm actually doing something. So that's where, if you can get yourself involved in a nonprofit that, you know, speaks to your passions, get involved in that, you're going to create connections there. But also through Cal CPA and their events, they do have their, you know, their little social hours, even though they're virtual now. Those are a really great way to get to know people. Ultimately, going to Cal CPA events is how I got my job. When they're looking through a pile of resumes, the folks who had been to Cal CPA events from Smith Marion when I've met this gal, I know her. And so that just elevates your resume just a little bit more when they've actually seen you somewhere outside of the interview process.
Mhm.
So,
Thank you.
mhm. Anybody got any other questions for me?
I actually did have another question. What was like the most interesting, I guess like day that you had with auditing?
Oh my goodness.
The flashbacks.
Yeah, there's been some. There have honestly, when you're going out into other client environments, we were at a particular place and their offices for this special district were inside a medical group by the hospital. And anyway, somebody came rushing in the room, alarms were going off, told us we had to get out of the building. The cancer treatment place next door had a radiation leak, and we all had to vacate the building. I was like, well, that's ironic. Anyway, that was one of the more interesting days. Been working at a sanitation district where there's a huge blowout. And we had to get out of their conference room because it was now becoming an emergency staging area so they could stop the flow of sewage. Yeah, there's been some interesting times in audit. There's some fun horror stories out there. So usually the ones that I enjoy the most though is when I've worked with a client and I've successfully explained something instead of talked over their head, really explained to them a concept, and I get done and they go, wow, that really made sense. That always rings my bell. When I'm able to perform my work and help the client understand some portion of their accounting or their reporting and they really get it, I get a really big kick out of that.
So then there's times that you would go like directly to them? Oh, that's really
Usually,
cool.
most years, during busy season, I could go all week and not be in the office in the past. So I would usually spend 3 days or 2 days of the beginning of the week at one client and another, 2 to 3 days at the end of the week at another client during busy season. We're back to back to back to back. So this year's the first year that everybody got to see a lot of my face. I'm not sure they're all happy about that, but we have been doing much more of our work remotely. And so it's been a different experience for us this year. So you're almost itching to go out now. You're like, oh, please, somebody have me in your office. So I can leave my office for a little while. But, and then the Tennessee team, they're still traveling quite extensively, but they had started to pare back on the traveling and doing more work remotely. And then when COVID hit, it really kicked in. And so for them, I think it's been a real boon because it's reduced the number of travel days. So what you'll find is most auditors, experienced auditors, that's kind of how they measure their year is like how many days they were actually home. So this new environment and using the tools, honestly, we've had, it's like, why do I need to go out and look at your building that you're building? There's cameras there. Just show me it's all been there, but we've still been doing it in person because the client expected it. And so I think there's been some big benefits to the profession as a whole with COVID. I know that sounds bad that there'd be something good, but there's something good in this. Yeah.
Yeah, the Tennessee office, they actually used to, their team would be gone overnight 130 days on average a year.
Yeah. What did they do last year? Do we know yet?
I haven't checked. I'm surprised Chad hasn't asked me. Probably 80, probably that in half.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, for me, this is the first time I've been in the office this much. Because we're doing everything remotely. All of my jobs are local. So my travel time is usually, at the longest out to San Diego. And this year for my San Diego job, I didn't even drive out there. They uploaded everything. We met via Zoom. I didn't have the overnight stay.
So the travel is like generally within state or neighboring states, not to Chicago. I understand. Larger.
No, we actually, through our Tennessee office, it's all over the country.
Wow.
So how many states are they in now?
13 probably.
Yeah.
They're in Florida, Texas, Mississippi, Missouri, obviously Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, other states that I can't remember off the top of my head. Chad always makes fun of me because when we interview people in Tennessee, the first states that come to my head are Alabama and Mississippi. And he's like, why don't you start with Florida? He's like, start with the most attractive places we go to.
The whole Sun Belt.
Yeah. And I do tell people, unfortunately, because we work with nonprofits and housing authorities, you can go to some nice places, but I can't say the places we usually work in are the best of places because, my clients are servicing the most needy in our communities. And so generally it's not a high-rise tower in the middle of, the Soho district or anything. So it's a little more earthy. Yeah.
Any other questions for Kendra?
Yeah, what would be your best, do you have any busy season horror stories, deleting any prior year work papers or anything like that? Any intern mistakes that you can speak to possibly?
No.
Love to hear some of those.
I was the associate who did it all. I told everybody, when I still tell associates when they come in, if I tell you shouldn't do something, it's because I've done it. So yeah, one time we went out in the field, the in charge wanted me to make changes to the trial balance. So the trial balance is like step one in the binder. And he wanted me to change something in the trial balance while we were in the field. And instead of changing one thing, I basically deleted the entire trial balance.
Nice.
Yeah. He was pleased. He was really, really pleased.
I mean, that's when they tell you, yeah, you can go home for the day. Don't worry.
I rode with him. He had to take me back.
Oh, that car ride home.
So yeah, and I've had where I've spent, the last 6 hours and it's right up against deadline working on a set of financial statements and our server, we used to work on our own server. Our server went down. And when it came back up, all of that work was no longer there. And I remember telling at the time I worked with David Marion, I was like, all my work is lost. And he just looked at me and he says, well, Kendra, he said, even Jesus saves. I was like, oh my God. So I stayed up all night. I finished it. So I tell everybody it's much faster the second time. So if you have to do it a third time, you should probably go home. Yeah.
I know we often hear a lot about a lot of people have this kind of game plan of they're going to go into the public sector, do their 5 years, hit the pay bump, and then they're going to transfer out to industry. What kind of kept you in that public sector, if you don't mind me asking?
So having done bookkeeping, the reason I went back to college was when you work with the same set of books, the same people every year, every 30 days, close out the same thing. It's monotonous. It's monotonous. And so for me, the public sector wasn't really attractive. What I enjoy about my position here, and especially now as a partner, to a certain degree, I kind of get to decide the work I'm going to work on, and it changes. It changes over a lot. And so while I may look the same client every year, once I'm done with their audit, I'm kind of done with them for a little while, and I get to explore something different. So, and that's what makes a person who's worked in public accounting for 3 to 5 years so attractive to the public sector that wants to hire you. They know you have seen financial statements from every angle. They know you can read them 15 minutes before a board presentation and speak to those financial statements with more accuracy than the people who looked at them all year long. But that's the kind of experience you gain in public accounting. It's fast paced. You get to see a lot of different situations, a lot of financial statements, a lot of different ways of accounting. And so for me, that was just always more, it keeps my interest more than churning over the same product, day after day, year after year.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good question, Ryan. You guys don't have to be hesitant. You guys can ask what you want to ask. I know it's kind of intimidating, but if you have something you want to ask, just feel free to ask it.
Yeah, I'm not scary.
Yeah. Looks like we have just a little over 5 minutes.
So let's see. I can pick on somebody. I haven't heard I've heard from Amy briefly. Amy, why don't you just tell us about yourself?
Okay, my name's Amy. I'm a postgraduate. This is gonna be my last spring is my last semester, and then I will have a master's and a bachelor's in accounting. And I have a dog. She's because I don't have kids, so I have a dog, and she's like 12.
Dogs are better than kids. I have both.
I think so. I got her when all my friends were having kids. I was like, I'm gonna get a dog. She's a poodle Maltese. She's adorable.
Oh.
She doesn't drink rain gutter water. She doesn't drink after other dogs either.
Oh, I was gonna say, mine are a little more rough and tumble. They'll drink anything.
Like, she's a prissy girl.
Good. All right, and I got enough. Each of you can do a minute. Jennifer, you're up next.
My name is Jennifer Bazan, and I'm a senior at Cal State San Bernardino. I would say I have experience in tax preparation, and but I did want to learn more about auditing. I've never taken an auditing course. I'm going to be taking it soon in the spring.
Who do you
And I'm
have?
also, what was that?
Who's teaching it? The audit class. Do you know?
I think it was Ebenezer Lamptey.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
Yeah,
I
and
had
then
Yusuf, I think, his first year.
I think he does I think he runs the VITA program now at CSUSB.
Really?
yeah.
All right.
And then I will also be graduating with my bachelor's in the spring. And then I plan on doing my master's program at the school also. And I would like to either be go into public accounting, or if not, I would actually love to be like an accounting teacher.
Very good. You must be patient. Ryan, you're next on my screen.
Oh, I'm the black sheep out of everybody here. They all go to Cal State San Bernardino. I'm the only Bronco here from Cal Poly Pomona, but I'm a
it's a good
transfer.
school.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I love the school. It's been awesome. Yeah, I'm a third year here. Transferred here actually from Pasadena City College. Grew up on the mean streets of La Cañada, way over there, and then yeah, I got into the VITA program, and that kind of springboarded me into the accounting sector. I actually traveled the world with a buddy who works at Deloitte, and he recommended me go into accounting, and I kind of never looked back from it.
Wow, he's a real punisher.
Oh yeah.
I tell most
Yo.
people, don't do it. Whatever
No,
you do, don't do it. No.
It's one of those, it's going to be a great learning experience one, you know, one of those where it's like, oh, okay.
I tell everybody accounting is at the core of any industry that happens to interest you. So if you have any proclivity for accounting, and not everybody does, but just always know you can marry that passion with that education. Let's see, I'm running out of time. Joshua.
Hey folks, good to see you again. Joshua Spoon. I am a third-year student after about 10 years at community college, which is always fun. So I have been in school for a long, long time. I am newly elected president of the Beta Alpha Psi program at Cal State San Bernardino. And I'm sure I've been harassing everyone about joining because I need membership. We're at like 15 people. It's terrible. The pandemic hit us hard. Anyway, other than that, I have a real interest in audit and forensics, and just it all seems very interesting to me. I'm hoping to sink my teeth in, and I'm learning a lot from this program.
Good. I think we have Drake.
Hi, I'm Drake Davis. I'm doing the MSA program right now. I have one undergrad class left, and then the rest is all graduate classes for this upcoming semester. I'm also doing the VITA program, as well as I am the president of the Accounting Association, so I work with Joshua.
So how are they doing VITA when is it all virtual?
It's all going to be virtual, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they start the training courses on the 22nd. Yeah.
All right. You still got to take that test to the IRS to.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, I stayed up all night taking it.
Oh. Well, just know when I was still helping VITA, I'm a licensed CPA and I still got to take this test. I was like, oh, and it would kill me every year. All right. And Roberto.
Yeah, so I'm a second year here at Cal State San Bernardino. I'm also the treasurer for my fraternity, so I feel like that's really helpful, like going forward. But yeah.
All right. Hannah, where did she go?
I'm here. What?
She's still here.
I have some polling questions.
Oh, yay. I was the
Okay.
Rocky Road, by the way.
Oh, yes.
I
would be Rocky Road too. Let's see. Oh, this is a little more serious. We've had some silly ones. Okay. Which best describes you in the workplace? Challenge yourself, lead by example, grow with your team, or fulfill commitments? We'll just give everyone 15 more seconds to answer. Perfect. You guys were nice and fast. Let's see. And we did have a variety. So it looks like pretty even across the board.
So just a quick on the values. When we do our assessments, we have everybody, kind of mark down which one of the values did you exhibit most in the last year. And every first year picks challenge yourself.
That's true.
I told him, yeah, you think you.
That scans.
Because they were challenged all year long. It was very nice meeting everybody. Thanks for attending, and let everybody know you had a good time.
Thank you so much, Kendra.
All right. See you guys, gals.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and when we get back, we're going to do the audit roundtable. So you get a chance to talk to Miguel and Kevin and pick their brains.